Hey party people, I'm Pastor Lia Scholl from First Friends Meeting House in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm so grateful that you're taking your precious time to be with us today. Time is exactly what we're talking about time away from work, Sabbath. Today we're talking about the God who rests. So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. The book of Genesis has two creation stories. The first, as we tell it, takes 6 days and goes in this order: light and shadow, firmament and sky, dry ground and vegetation, sun and moon and all the stars, birds and sea creatures, and then creatures that walk upon the land, including the human one. In the second creation story, in chapter 2, it goes a little bit more into detail about how the human one was created. Dr. Wilda Gaffney translates it like this: the sovereign God created the human from the dust of the humus and breathed into its nostrils the breath of life, and the human became a living soul. So God created all of the world, and then on the seventh day, God rested. What does it mean to have a God who rests? Does it mean that God gets tired? Can you imagine God saying, "Whew, I have nearly outdone myself and I am wore slap out"? No, not likely. Hebrew scholar Walter Brueggemann says it this way: God did not show up to do more. God absented God's self from the office. God did not come and check on creation and anxiety to make sure it was all working. God has complete confidence in the fruit-bearing, blessing-generating processes of creation that have been instituted. God exhibits no anxiety about the life-giving capacity of creation. God knows the world will hold, the plants will perform, and the birds and the beasts of the field will prosper. Humankind will govern the earth in a generative way. All will be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Do you ever feel like that? That the work is done, the office is fine without you, that all the fruit-bearing, blessing-generating processes of creation will be fine without you? No. I never feel that way. What about you? We have internalized the idea that our work is never done, that we are indispensable, and that things will fall apart if we're not working. Our hours, our days, even our moments are treated as a commodity, a thing that can be bought and sold. We even only take our vacations because they make us, and because they infuse in us the idea, they teach us this idea that rested workers are better workers. So even our rest time is about productivity. In a Glamour magazine interview in 2019, Danielle Steele, an author of 179 books, admitted that she works almost all the time, at least 20 hours a day, sometimes even 24, and averages writing 7 books a year. She lives on practically no sleep and takes 1 week of vacation each year. Some people think that's praiseworthy. However, she admits in the interview that her uber productivity is a way of avoiding difficult emotions. She said she takes refuge in her work. It's an escape for her. Do you see what I'm saying? We live in a system that values us based on how much we can produce. And one of the ways that we internally try to avoid the difficulties of our lives is by staying busy. Therefore, busyness becomes our mode of living. Sabbath is an antidote to that. Let's see if we can get a little closer to what Sabbath means. If we look closely at today's Hebrew text, it says, this is in Genesis chapter 1, and on the seventh day, God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. The Bible tells us, though, that God actually finished creating the world on the sixth day. I asked my favorite rabbi to help me with this, Rabbi Rebecca Ben Gideon, one of the rabbis at Beth David Synagogue in Greensboro. She told me that the rabbis of old asked the question, what was created on the seventh day? And then the rabbis answered, Menucha, rest. It's probably better pronounced menucha. They expanded on that idea of rest too, saying that it was tranquility, serenity, peace, and repose. Abraham Joshua Heschel says menucha is not a negative concept, as in no work or no toil, but instead something real and intrinsically positive. Perhaps it is the creation of tranquility, serenity, peace, and repose. So how do we do it? That's a question that's a lot easier asked than actually done, or said than done. And we're going to examine that over the next several weeks. But I'm going to start with Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son and your daughter, your male and female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. At its very core, Sabbath is about choosing relationship over commodity. That's why the text says you, your son, your daughter, your male and female slave, your livestock, the alien resident in your town. Sabbath is a place where, in the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel, there was a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be. Not to own, but to give. Not to control, but to share. Not to subdue, but to live in accord. Life goes wrong when the control of space, the acquisition of things of space, becomes our sole concern. Those things are the things we hope to create in rest. Space to be, to give, to share, and to live in accord. Ultimately, we worship a God who rests, who created Sabbath to help us stay in right relationship with the world around us. And like I said, over the next few weeks, we're going to explore what it means to rest, to seek Sabbath, and to find maybe a rhythm of quiet and downtime. I wonder, as a query to ponder, Where is your resistance to rest? What keeps you in the hamster wheel of life, refusing God's good gift of creation, which is rest? Hopefully, we'll all begin to seek a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be, not to own, but to give, not to control, but to share, not to subdue, but to live in accord. May it ever be.